Okay, a busy episode. Today's is going to be a busy episode of Canucks Conversation. And as always, it is brought to you by the folks over at Greta. We were there for the Canucks Army Watch Party on October 19th, the first of many this season. Make sure you come on out to Greta. We're going to have announcements coming soon of our next date, so make sure you don't miss the next one if you missed the first one. If you came to the first one, you will certainly want to come to the second one, just minutes from the arena. Come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for with weekly drink specials. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, lots to get to today. My name is David Quadrelli. I'm joined by Harman. Our technical producer is Jacob Lazar, and he was going to join us at 2:05, but some technical difficulties got us started a little late, so he's just joining us right off the top. Patrick Johnson of the province joins us today. A hot button guest. Like you must have been hard to book today. You got the
2:04. Dave, I'm early. It's 2:04.
You're early, but you got a lot of requests. A lot of people wanted to talk to you today, and that's because the news of the day, again, wasn't broken by you, but you added a lot of context. So let's start with the context of the story. The Canucks making this announcement on Tuesday morning. Canucks forward JT Miller is to take an indefinite leave for personal reasons. Right now, our sole focus is making sure that JT knows the entire organization is here to support him. Out of respect for JT, we will have no further comment at this time. That was the statement we got from Patrick Alvin. Naturally, that led to a lot of speculation, but Patrick, your reporting can confirm for us at least that this isn't a, and I don't know exactly how I want to word this, but it's not like a substance abuse problem or anything like that where he's going into the player assistance program. What can you tell us?
Yeah, just to be clear, the Players Assistance Program is available to anybody, basically. It doesn't have to just be about substance abuse. But yeah, that was one thing that was immediately underlined to me when I started asking some questions around was, no, this is not a substance issue. This is not a drugs issue, not an alcohol issue. It's a player that needs some time. And, it is all a bit unusual. We're not used to seeing guys just step away and take a break. They would have gone on IR. There didn't seem any reason why he doesn't go on IR. You still get the roster spot. But at the moment, it appears he's non-roster. Anyway, yeah, JT Miller, I guess, dealing with some sort of overall, he's been dealing with some kind of, I guess, neck problem. That was obvious. And as you can look and see, he hasn't been playing as sort of in the way that we expect him to play. Yes, of course, he's still made some mistakes and he's going to make mistakes, but there was sort of that energy that going through people. Rick Tocchet's talked a lot about that, and I started wondering if he was talking about JT Miller. But you watched how he was playing, and he just wasn't, he wasn't playing with the same abandon, the same aggression that we've been used to. And still picking up points, right? Like, setting up goals. Think about the Miller tap in a tip goal on the power play the other night. Like, still doing stuff. But just the way everything kind of sagged, I think, in Sunday, it seems like things came to a head. And it's a player that in all this has sort of asked to take some time away, sit back, figure out what's going on with him, I guess, and get himself a little bit healed up. I don't think he's going to make this road trip. Certainly stay home, a chance to sort of just reset himself is what it was put to me.
It's obviously a little strange. Like, we don't often see this where a player takes a leave of absence. Again, you brought up IR. You also brought up that, like, we've seen players enter the player assistance program, as you said off the top, and I misspoke a little bit there. Like, players enter it for mental health reasons as well, and it's just a strange situation. So I guess at this time we don't have much more.
I think strange is the wrong word. It's unusual, right? I mean, we have seen players take leaves in the past, like. You can go back. Craig Anderson, Dominic Moore both took leaves when their wives were ill. But on the other hand, as it was pointed out to me, technically Dylan Dubé was put on a personal leave before all the news came cascading down on him about being accused of being involved in the World Junior scandal. So, there's a lot of wiggle room in moments like this. Certainly nothing to suggest it's anything close to what Dubé or anything like that. That, as I said, as I've been sort of told, this is a player who needed essentially a moment to take a deep breath, reset himself. He's been dealing with this injury. I don't know if the break will heal the injury, but certainly a chance to, as it was said to me, reset himself.
A lot of the focus is going to be on what his absence means as far as on ice, lineup, power play, things of that nature. But how much do you think his absence will also be felt just from an emotional leadership standpoint?
Yeah, I mean he certainly has been an important point for the team emotionally. We know Rick Tocchet leans on him to drive the bus from that standpoint, and that's why I found myself thinking about, was Rick Tocchet talking about JT Miller when he was making these references lately about being soft and guys not going through players. That's the expectation. That's what the player needs to be, and you're right. Like there's and we like think of it. We project the emotion ourselves onto that, and what we see from the players and how they play. Yeah, certainly the player is going to be missed. Interestingly, Elias Pettersson was asked, I understand this morning, about how much would they miss person. He focused in on the player. But we're going to miss the player. The way the player plays has meant a lot to how the Canucks want to play, and he just hasn't been that guy.
Patrick, a lot of people don't know what the word indefinite means, apparently, because a lot of people asking, how long is this going to be? We don't know the answer to that question, but you did report that it doesn't sound like he's going to be going on this 6-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, and I see a certain person with the name R&D has said, he's heard the same thing. So, I think he's, there's essentially, 10 days that it's a big upcoming road trip. They play tonight. They don't play again until Saturday in Ottawa, but they're playing a bunch of games next week. Obviously his homecoming game in Pittsburgh, one of them. But I don't think he can be playing in any of those games. So the indefinite question obviously does bring me back to the time I emailed a member of the Whitecaps PR staff asking how many years is a multi-year contract, and they sent me the definition being more than one. So indefinite, I believe, means we don't know. And Rick Tocchet said as much this morning. We don't know when he's going to be back. But obviously, it's not a few days. This is something that's going to be of some substantial amount of time, which again comes back to kind of being it is a bit odd that the fact that the designation of being non-roster, not on IR, but not in the player assistance program, at least nobody's saying it is. You kind of go, there's something in the gap here. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fill that one in. Certainly, if he goes into the player assistance program, that's it. That doesn't get discussed. It's up to him to discuss what he wants. This one is a bit of a different approach, and as I said, a mildly unusual one.
There's no single player that's going to be able to replace JT Miller for the Canucks. Of course, a lot of the pressure and expectation is going to now fall on Elias Pettersson's shoulders. Yeah. But outside of Pettersson, are there a couple of guys, 2 or 3, that come to mind as far as, all right, these forwards are going to need to help fill JT's shoes by committee here?
Well, there's the literal, Pia Suter, I guess, slides in to be your number 2 center, sort of job share with him and Teddy Bluger. Suter obviously being much more offensively talented than Bluger. That's the obvious nuts and bolts one, but you think about how other guys need to step up offensively. I mean, Connor Garland obviously is also a question mark, with his wife being imminently ready to give birth to a baby, and that will take some of his attention away. Undoubtedly, I can tell you that, having done that a couple times. There's that. You need a guy like Garland to step it up. I mean, obviously, Jonathan Lekarmaki. I mean, like, the kid's been interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to me to see how he adjusts. I think Miller had kind of taken him under his wing a little bit as that kind of, if you want the sort of metaphor, fatherly element, but the veteran player trying to show the young talent kid how to get it done. Lekarmaki, I think, shows some good flashes. We can definitely see the kid needs to put on some weight because he's been thrown off the puck in a few puck battles. I look at guys like Danton Heinen, Dakota Joshua coming back. I mean, they're both wingers, but they're guys that actually can pick up the slack on faceoffs. They're both kind of pretty adept winger faceoff takers. It's going to be, you're just not going to replace the player. It's just that simple. Like, you're going to be able to pinch hit here and there. Obviously, Brock Boeser can't come. Brock Boeser coming back, which hopefully is soon, since he skated this morning, and hopefully he's on the road trip. That can't come soon enough. They need his offensive abilities. Is there a role for Boeser to play in the middle? I mean, certainly there's been, I know, noise in the past talking about, he's another guy who's interesting in terms of his abilities in the faceoff. Is he a guy that can slot into the middle? They don't really have an obvious fit. They've obviously got a few guys down on the farm who are sort of veteran grinder types, maybe Max Sasson type, but there's nobody obviously ready to step in and take on a huge offensive role. And so the way this team plays is going to be much more on the margins, playing tight. Think about that hockey they were trying to play in last spring, which they weren't exactly pleased to play, but they were playing very tight, checking 3-2, 2-1 hockey, and I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more of that.
Patrick, good stuff as always. Thanks so much for joining us. Canucks Rangers tonight. Check out Patrick over on Blue Sky. Blue Sky.
Yeah, bud.
Now. I see that. Everybody's over on Blue
that's
Sky.
all I want to
Harman,
be. Yeah.
Get with the program, Harm. Join Blue Sky. PJ, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Have a great show, guys.
There he is, Patrick Johnson of the Province. Go check out his article, by the way, as well. Really, really good stuff from PJ today over at the Province. Really busy show. It's a retro Canucks convo because we've got two guests. I can't remember the last time we had two guests on a show, Harm, but we do have two guests today. Quickly, before we get to your colleague over the Athletic, Peter Baugh, we're going to talk quickly. I just want to get this in. PJ mentioned it. Connor Garland, game time decision tonight because his wife is about to have a child. So congrats to the Garlands. It's exciting having your first kid. Not that I've had a kid, but you know what I'm saying. It's exciting nonetheless. So all the best to Garland. He's a game time decision tonight. Wanted to get this as well. Brock Boeser skating today. A really good sign, a really good first step in his recovery and his eventual return. Brock Boeser hits the ice along with Derek Forbert as well. Yeah,
he can't come back soon enough at this point, especially for not only at 5-on-5, but the power play as well, because that first unit, JT is the primary play creator. He's sort of the unofficial quarterback off the flanks. And Boeser, to this point in the season, has been, even going back to last year, has been their most dangerous scoring threat. So now, at this point, the Canucks don't have their primary playmaker on the first unit power play and have been without their primary sniper on that first unit as well. So Brock can't come back soon enough.
All right, let's preview tonight's game. Canucks Rangers. Here to help us do that is the Athletics' Peter Baugh. Peter, thanks for doing this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat with you. This Rangers team, it feels like there's a lot of stories. I'm going to start totally off the ice. What came of this? At the start of the year, we heard this supposed offer to Igor Shesterkin that was turned down. What's going on with Shesterkin and the Rangers right now?
Yeah, I think it's kind of status quo. I don't think a ton has changed. He was offered a lot of money. Pierre LeBrun, our colleague at The Athletic, reported that it would have made him the highest paid goalie of all time. He obviously turned down that contract because no deal got done. And so now they're kind of just playing on. I think Igor Shesterkin is a confident goaltender. I think he's comfortable playing out this season and seeing where it goes from there. But as of now, he doesn't have a contract and he's playing at a really high level. So I think he doesn't see any need he's got the leverage here as long as he keeps playing this well. There would be teams that are interested. So for now, he's just playing well and the Rangers are benefiting from it. And the contract will get, I guess, discussed as it goes, but that's where they're at right now.
Do you think there's any world in which the Rangers get to a point where they say, this number's too much for us and we're just going to have to walk away? Or do you think Shesterkin is too important to this team that if they lose him, the window essentially closes, regardless of the extra cap space that they have to play with?
I think if you look at the way the Rangers play, this is a team that is not dominant at 5-on-5. That's pretty dependent on both special teams and goaltending. I think if for whatever reason Igor Shesterkin isn't a New York Ranger next year, they're going to have to fundamentally change the way they play and likely will have to do a retool at the very least. I think that would not be an easy transition because they'd have to completely change their production level at 5-on-5, what they're able to generate at 5-on-5, what they're able to defend against at 5-on-5. Because I can tell you the Rangers' record is really good right now, but Jonathan Quick and Igor Shesterkin are the biggest reasons why, probably. There have been games that the Rangers have been outplayed and the goalies have kind of bailed them out of. So every team has those games every once in a while. Feels like the Rangers, among the best teams in the league, are probably one of the teams that counts on their goalies to do that more than others.
The Canucks have had to count on their goalies as well this year. If I had to diagnose what's been the biggest problem for the Canucks, it's defending the rush. There's been too many odd man rushes against. What's it been for the Rangers?
Probably defending the rush. So we could see.
We're in for a game.
Yeah, it could be a fun game tonight. A lot of odd man rushes. No, that's one issue for sure. I think just defense at even strength in general has been a little lackluster at points. There was a stretch a couple weeks ago where they just felt like every game teams were just generating tons of chances. They lost to Buffalo. I think gave up 6 goals against Buffalo, almost all at 5-on-5. And it was a lot of dangerous chances. It wasn't necessarily the number of chances was super high. It was how dangerous the chances were. So I think this team can sometimes. Kyle Connor actually, after Winnipeg beat them last week, referenced that he felt the Rangers were cheating for offense, and that led to chances going the other way. So I think that's kind of something to be mindful of. They played better defensively against Seattle. I thought they had a pretty good defensive game. They didn't generate a whole lot. That was a really low event, weird hockey game in a lot of ways. But their defense, I guess, has been a little better than it was the past couple weeks before, but certainly has not been perfect to start the year.
I've also seen the knives out for Mika Zibanejad. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. He's a really talented hockey player. Everyone knows what Mika Zibanejad is capable of. I think that Zibanejad is someone who in his career has been a streaky offensive producer, but the defense has been relatively consistent. And I think there were points, especially a couple weeks ago where he had some turnovers that were a little uncharacteristic. And it felt like every one of those was ending up in the back of the Rangers net. That's maybe calmed a little over the last week or so, but I definitely think that he's a player that is so much is counted on him 2 ways. That number one, the streakiness offensively can get fans up in arms to begin with. And then when the defense kind of isn't there, it gets a little more concerning. But he I believe had a couple points against San Jose. I'd have to check the exact box score, but he's had his scoring numbers on the surface aren't terrible, but it's kind of the same thing of like 5-on-5 production isn't always there. He also doesn't have a power play goal this year, or at least he didn't for a little bit. And this is someone who the Rangers really count on the power play. If you look at the past few years in the NHL, he's among the leaders in power play goals. So definitely someone the Rangers need to get going forward. I don't know if it's time to raise the alarm bells super high, but it certainly hasn't been the start to the season he was looking for.
The Rangers forward group is really interesting because you've got the established core and a lot of over 30 guys. When you look at Panarin, Zibanejad, Trocheck, Kreider, a lot of these established guys higher up in the lineup that you look at and go, given their age, it isn't surprising that a guy like Mika Zibanejad has maybe started to see his play dip over not just the start of this season, but even last year, 5-on-5 having some struggles. But then it's also been so fascinating to see like Philip Hedl has been on fire up until his recent absence. Guys like Will Cooley, Capo Caco, Lafreniere taking that next step, all guys that are 25 or under. Are the Rangers in the middle of a little bit of a transition of the guard here, where some of these younger players are going to be counted on and leaned on more heavily? Not that they're all of a sudden they're the first line and they're the ones that do all the heavy lifting, but how key is that transition going to be for the Rangers to consistently have success, not only this season, but beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in an ideal world for the Rangers, at least this season and next, I would say, the Panarin line, which has Lafreniere, Trocheck, and Panarin, that line is going to produce a ton of 5-on-5 offense. And then I think if the Zibanejad line is going at 5-on-5, which it hasn't always been over the past couple seasons, the Rangers are in really good position because the Hedl line, like you said, looks like it's starting to take that jump and get to a point where it's generating a lot of offense while also having some responsible defensive players. Now, it gets a little more dicey when the Zibanejad line isn't producing and it's not your third line, Hedl on your third line. They're starting to play second line minutes at 5-on-5. And it kind of, so maybe you are starting to see that transition a little bit where they're getting some more minutes. But I think that this team still counts on the Zibanejad line to go against tough competition, probably more than I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but probably counts on them against tougher competition more than the Hedl line. And we'll see kind of how that shifts in the coming years. But I think you're onto something. Of a lot of this team's core is in its 30s. And they're going to have some decisions with that coming up. I mean, Panarin's a free agent a year after next. Kreider, I believe, the year after. Like, these guys are all in their 30s, and decision time might be coming for some of them. But I think that if the Rangers handle this well, they could be buoyed by this next wave of talent, plus some guys who are in the minors right now.
In New York, is there a sense of like this is a massive year because there's some risk or concern around maybe the window could start closing after the season, and not only because of the age of some of these core players, but more importantly, the cap situation? Just looking at how much Shesterkin is going to command on his next contract, but also Lafreniere's extension coming in. Keandre Miller is an RFA. Ryan Lindgren's a free agent. First of all, how are the Rangers going to navigate all of these contracts for key players? And is there a risk, you think, of the window closing after the season?
I kind of wrote going into the year that I thought this was a huge year for the Rangers for that very reason, because I think if you look at Shesterkin, either most likely you would think the Rangers will find a way to keep him. His salary cap hit is going way up. You probably, because of that, or because of other losses, Jacob Trouba is probably getting moved this offseason. I think that's something that people around the league expect, and I think that's an accurate expectation. I think that there's going to be a lot of very difficult decisions coming up where they have to decide, what do you do with Lindgren? Can you afford to pay him? How much do you give Keandre Miller? Can you afford to pay him what he wants? What do you do with Capo Caca, who's a restricted free agent? These are all decisions that are coming down, and they're going to lose guys like Riley Smith, who they brought in, who's an unrestricted free agent who can provide secondary scoring. So it's definitely a big year. I think the team's going to look different next year. And like you alluded to, all the guys in their 30s are going to be a year older next year. So I'm with you that this is a really important year. I don't think the window necessarily closes. And I think there is opportunity in the future as the cap goes up. New York's always an attractive place for people to pay. But I think next season, the roster is probably going to look a lot different, and probably not in a good way. And then maybe after that, when you have a little more cap relief, maybe when some of your young guys are starting to pop a little more, then things get a little better.
Peter, good stuff. Thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. And we'll chat with you when the Rangers play the Canucks next, I'm sure. Thanks for doing this.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
There
Peter.
he is. Peter Baugh of The Athletic. Canucks Rangers tonight. Harm, let's keep talking about this game. What are you expecting from the Rangers? Like we talked, was it yesterday's show or 2 days ago that we were talking about how they've had problems of their own this season, and Peter kind of talked about that, defending off the rush. So hey, maybe we have a pretty exciting game tonight. But obviously a little bit different. They have Igor Shesterkin and the Canucks have Artur Shilovs in net. I'm not going to say how that's different, but a lot of rush offense is
just
what
a
we're
little bit
expecting
different.
tonight. Just a little bit different. Just a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, this Rangers team is really interesting. I think from the Canucks perspective, they're going to have to play better than they did over the weekend, right? They beat Chicago, but it wasn't really a convincing effort, especially in the first period. Now, the Predators game at 5-on-5, yeah, I thought the Canucks had strong moments. They pretty convincingly outplayed Nashville when it came to even strength play, but then the PK lets them down. And to me, the Nashville game was two teams both playing pretty average hockey, right? Not bad hockey, not terrible hockey, but pretty average, not anywhere close to their A game. And I think especially with JT Miller out, especially with Brock Boeser out, especially with Connor Garland, a game time decision, you're going to need something closer to your A game. I think you're going to have to be especially disciplined, because that Rangers power play can really crush you. The Rangers, as Peter alluded to, they're not the best 5-on-5 team. They rely on special teams and goaltending to really prop them up. So you can't have any undisciplined penalties. And as much as you can keep things to 5-on-5 and just try and grind out more of a tight checking hockey game, that's really going to be the key. But look, it's not going to be easy, right? It's not just, oh, we lost JT Miller. It's deflating to hear the news that one of your teammates is going through something, and no doubt that has an impact on a team's emotions, their energy level. They're at a significant disadvantage, not only because of the recent Miller news, but because of the inconsistent hockey they've had against top teams, right? A lot of their wins have come against these softer bottom feeder opponents. So it's going to be a big challenge. And for me, I'm not so much focused on the result as I am looking for the competitiveness to be there, the hardness to be there, the effort to be there defensively. If they end up losing a 4-2 game or whatever, but they competed hard, they were doing the right things defensively. They didn't give up too much off the rush, and maybe they lost because the power play without Miller and Boeser wasn't very good, or they had trouble generating 5-on-5 offense. I'm not going to come on the show tomorrow here and rip them for that. I'm looking more so for the effort and the process to be there rather than the result.
That's a great way to put it. That's absolutely a great way to put it. And that's going to be kind of the lens that I think everybody is watching through tonight. Quickly wanted to get to the power play units. As you said, Miller and Besserless power play units. Jake DeBrusk at the net front. Jonathan Lekramacky back in the bumper. Pia Suter comes onto the left half while skating in that JT Miller spot. People were asking who the call-up was. Arshdeep Bains. Arshdeep Bains gets the call back up to the NHL, and he is back on the power play. Nils Höglander not on the power play. Aatu Ratu net front. Kiefer Sherwood in the bumper. Arshdeep Bains on the right side. Philip Hronik, the one-timer option on the left, and Eric Brandstrom serving as the power play 2 quarterback. I don't even want to analyze these power play units. Let's just see what happens tonight. We got days in between games. We're gonna have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to really. We're not gonna just talk about this game on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but
no, like a 3-day breakdown of like each day we're gonna do Wednesday the first period, Thursday the second period, Friday the third period.
Yes. We don't need to break this down. I do like that Jonathan Lekramacky is in the bumper spot. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah. I liked him there before. I thought, in all honesty, I thought the power play has looked better with him in that spot, and I thought he's given them kind of a different look. So I like Jonathan Lekramacky there, but we don't need to talk more about the power play. I did want to say this. If Miller's going to be out for at least the road trip, and again, I don't want to turn this into a speculating thing, so let's just focus on the hockey aspect. So I say if, okay? If Miller, as reported by PJ, isn't going to be on this road trip, do you think the Canucks might make a trade for a center? We just talked about they don't have center depth. Do you think they might make a trade if he's going to be out week to week? And again, it's an indefinite amount. I'm sure the Canucks have some idea of when he might be back, but for our purposes, if it's 2 weeks, do you think the Canucks go make a trade?
It'd have to be the type of center that they look at and go, even when we have our full lineup back, this would legitimately upgrade our team and be worth it. I don't think.
And you're looking for an upgrade on Aatu Ratu at that point because you want to move Suter back to the wing. That's the whole point here, right?
And not just that, but remember last year they looked at their center depth with Miller, Pettersson, and Teddy Bluger on the third line. That was one of the best third lines in the NHL, and they went, we want another centerman. Elias Lindholm, and you could tell in the playoffs, Teddy Bluger has been so good for this Canucks team over the last couple of seasons, but come playoff time, when you're trying to go up against the big dogs, he is best served on the fourth line. It just gives you a different look matchups wise when you have an extra third line center that can go up and share some of the responsibility to take on tough matchups, so that Miller and Pettersson can be freed up a little bit to play in more of an offensive sort of role, more offensive zone starts, not have to worry about going head to head against the other team's top lines as much. It gives you a different look, gives you a different option, especially to weather potential injuries with the deep playoff run. And I think this was like a secondary need that the Canucks were probably looking at anyway, especially if they could get a right hand center. So I don't think that's, if you can find that right fit for a player that you would have wanted to target at the deadline anyway, then sure, you maybe go out and make a trade. But I don't think they're going to go out and make a trade just because, JT Miller is going to be out for a little while and we need to patch this as like a Band-Aid short-term solution.
I think, yeah, exactly. It just accelerates what I think they were probably already thinking about doing. Conversation. Nazem Kadri, you are a Vancouver Canuck. Barrett Hayton getting some love in the chat. He was in a recent Canucks Army article about potential targets. Do you like Barrett Hayton?
I do, but he's not really a driver, right? He's more of a complimentary, sort of has net front skill type player. I also look at Utah center depth and it's a weakness for them, right? So I don't know that they're all of a sudden gonna look to shop Hayton. He's 24 years old, so he's young, and if they like him, you'd presume that he'd be part of their long-term plans. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he's available, especially this early in the season.
Yeah, that's fair. Barrett Hayton, thing I remember most about him is he's part of the reason why the Canucks got Quinn Hughes.
Yes.
Right? Part of the reason.
Funny story too, because I actually spoke to Arizona's director of scouting at the time when they were going through Hayton versus. It was like they were this close to taking Hughes instead of Hayton, but they ultimately
got their guy.
I don't know. They like without going into too much detail. It seemed like they had some type of personality testing going on to their own stuff that they ran, and apparently that partially went into the decision making. But either way, it was.
What are you trying to say? Are you talking about the skull measuring thing?
No, not the skull measuring thing. No, they didn't measure their skulls.
I thought you were gonna say they didn't like the size of Quinn Hughes' head, so they didn't.
No, it wasn't that. It was.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. Anyway, they were really close. It was like between Hayton and Hughes, and ultimately they took Hayton.
Okay, let's get to anyone else. Speaking of great contributions from the chat, let's get to anyone else. Presented proudly by White Spot. At White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With the new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home. The new menu features mouth-watering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, the home-style pot roast, and backed by popular demand, the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. Harm, did you get hit with snow last night?
What? No.
It snowed. It snowed. There was snow. I saw it out of UBC too. There was snow. You didn't get snow?
No, none.
Huh. Jacob, you must have got snow.
I don't think I did, but also like I was I didn't go outside this morning, right? I'm working from home today, so
No. It did snow it snowed last night. It snowed last night, late last night.
Didn't see anything
Is
before
this a
I
hoax?
went to bed.
I don't.
Chat,
I've never-
it was snowing. No, I saw every bunch of people's Instagram stories was snow. Anyways, whatever. Someone else knows that it snowed. Okay, no snow in Abbotsford, says Vector the Angel in the chat. It snowed elsewhere other than just my house. Come on.
By the way,
Sorry.
Wanted to bring this up since we were talking about how Hughes fell in the draft. Indirectly, Phil Peronic is part of the reason why the Canucks got Quinn Hughes. Because I chatted with Ken Holland. Like, I wrote that story in 2020. I wanted to know, how did Quinn Hughes fall to number 7? So I went and talked to like scouting directors, GMs of the teams that were responsible for these picks ahead of Vancouver. And so I ended up talking to Ken Holland, and he mentioned that in their system, they already had a lot of offensive D at the time. That was a big reason why, like, Ken Holland really liked Quinn Hughes. That was the other thing. Quinn Hughes played in their backyard, but he started talking about how in their system, you have to look at what you already have. And
You
so
don't. You don't. That's my
but-
take. Is you don't. You don't have to look at what you already
That's
have.
what they did, right? Because they looked at them having Hronek and Dennis Shalowski and went, well, we've got a couple of like smaller, lighter offensive D, so we don't want to load up on having too many smaller offensive D. And so that was a big part of the thought process behind the Wings passing up on Quinn Hughes and taking Philip Zadina instead.
Could you imagine if with Crosby and Malkin, the Penguins like, we already have a center. We don't need to, like, you don't need to do that.
There's an alternate universe where Hughes and Hronek could have been together in Detroit instead of Vancouver.
That is a great point. That is a great point. Wow, yeah, that's a really.
It was
good
wild
point.
too, because I don't know if you remember, but that year Hughes played for Team USA at the World Championships right before the draft, and Jeff Blashill, the head coach of the Red Wings, was head coach of Team USA at that time. And I don't know if you remember at that tournament, but this whole idea of, oh, Quinn Hughes might be too small. How does he defend? He was going up there against NHL competition at 17, 18 years old and looked really, really good. And immediately I was like, oh, come on. Like, this is, at the time you're hoping Hughes would fall to 7. And I was like, come on. Like, Jeff Blashill and the Red Wings are getting a firsthand look at Hughes against NHL competition, how he's crushing it. How are they possibly going to pass on him? And somehow they did.
Already got a center, or already got a defenseman. He shoots the other hand, but he's still in the system. We already got another defenseman. Okay, let's get to the chat here. This one from Ty's Hockey Talk. He said, would now be the time to test out Lekermacki and Petey together? This is an interesting thing. So obviously Elias Pettersson is going to be, thank God Elias Pettersson's playing well, I think is all we can say right now, right? Is at least Elias Pettersson's playing well. You want him to rise to this occasion. You want him to kind of be your best player. He's probably going to have to be their best player if they're actually going to beat the Rangers, let alone hang with them. So Lekkerimäki with Petey, I don't know if I like that, only because the Pettersson line, in my view at least, with last change, like that's the Canucks matchup line, right? Is it's going to be DeBrusk, Petey, Sherwood playing the matchups against the Rangers top line. So I don't know if I like that role for Lekkerimäki. I think that's probably his only deficiency, is that he sometimes gets hit off the puck a little bit too easily. And I don't love that for Lekkerimäki. I actually kind of like the idea of keeping him on the third line. Again, we don't know what's going to happen if Connor Garland's gone too. It's hard to make predictions about the Canucks lineup, but I do at least like DeBrusk, Petey, Sherwood together as a matchup line.
Yeah, especially because Sherwood and Pettersson looked sick together last game. I don't want to break up that combination and throw Sherwood on another line, especially because Sherwood's speed, how disruptive he is, how many battles he wins. I think Pettersson benefits from having that element, as opposed to if Pettersson and Lekkerimäki were playing together. Part of my worry would be, well, are they going to win enough pucks back on the forecheck?
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the lines that we have right now. These are Batch's guess at lines. We don't know where Garland's going to be. These are based on jersey color, so you would assume that it's going to be Garland skating with Pius Suter and Dakota Joshua if Garland's able to make it. But Vincent Desharnais, still no Vincent Desharnais, who's missed a couple games now. Shelov starts in goal. Any surprise there? Like I don't even want to say I'm surprised. It was just that I think Shelov's had a good start. Lankinen wasn't spectacular against Nashville, and this is a decent opportunity to get Shelov's a game. You're going out on the road. You're probably going to need both guys. Lankinen's definitely come down from that level of, he's otherworldly. You have to run him when he's on this heater. I think that's basically all it is. It's just Lankinen is no longer on that heater, so you get Shelov's in there. You keep him fresh, and now you're going to have both guys as you head on the road.
Yeah, especially because Shelov's played well against Chicago. If he hadn't played well against the Hawks, I think this might have been maybe a bit of a different conversation, but he played well. Lankinen's form has slid a bit recently, and Lankinen's not used to this type of workload where he's been playing not only the share of starts that you'd expect a 1A goaltender to get, but a bona fide workhorse starter. So I like the idea of going to Shelov's.
Yeah. James Hansen on Facebook said, I'm surprised no one's talking about the lack of in-game management we are seeing with the Canucks. Has there been a single timeout this season? A line gets scored on, looks soft, and they're kept out to take the face-off. We highlighted this a lot, talking about that Nashville game. The minute 20 left, we were wondering exactly what Rick Tocchet meant when he said Patrick outcoached me after the game against the Islanders. Rick Tocchet got outcoached in that final third period against the Preds. That just, it wasn't good enough to, I don't want to criticize Tocchet too much, but it was just that you had a minute 20 left on the clock. You send Ratu out. I get it. You want to win the draw, but then you lost the draw. And then all of a sudden you've got a mismatch with Hughes out there. And then Hughes has to go on the bench. Again, if it works, maybe we're not talking about it, but it didn't work, and at least take the timeout after the icing call. Anyways, I don't want to keep rehashing it, but no, James, you were not the only one surprised about that. Some league-wide news, Harm, that I wanted to get to. Jim Montgomery fired as Boston Bruins head coach. Joe Sacco brought in. That's the name of an old realtor in North Burnaby. But anyways, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. But anyways, Joe Sacco is head coach of the Boston Bruins. This was a cool stat that I saw that I wanted to bring up. This is the third Jack Adams award-winning coach that the Bruins have fired since Cam Neely has been in either the vice president or president role.
Well, also somebody tweeted out that the Bruins have the best record in the NHL since Montgomery was hired as their head coach. I think this is overly harsh. I think this is him just being the scapegoat after. To me, the onus should fall on management. I didn't like their offseason at all. I mean, how many times in the lead up to this offseason did I say, I don't want to sign Elias Lindholm at the price that he's going to command. I don't want to see the Canucks sign Nikita Zadorov, despite his great playoff run, at the price that it's going to take. Both of them have had really rough starts. I mean, Elias Lindholm isn't producing offensively at all. Meanwhile, Nikita Zadorov has really struggled. He hasn't played like a legit top four defenseman, which outside of his success in the playoffs, he's never been that. He's always been a number 5 type defenseman who can maybe play up with your second pair in a pinch. But those signings have really cost them. That wasn't a great use of cap space for the Bruins, and now they're paying the price for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
not they're paying the price for it. Jim Montgomery is unfairly paying the price for it.
Well, the fans, the team, like they're all paying the price, but now Montgomery is the one that gets let go. So I totally see what you're saying. Yeah. He's not gonna be able to work long. He's just not.
No.
Yeah. Anyways, it's not quite at the level of Bruce Cassidy, I don't think, but it's close.
It's close.
It's close. And it's the Bruins doing it again. So I want to get to that. This other one, this is a sad piece of news. Alex Ovechkin. The Canucks convo curse. Can you extend it to that? Because I was talking about Alex Ovechkin yesterday and how, yeah, you take the almost called them the Whitecaps, the Capitals, you take them to win on the money line. I was right about that. The Capitals won, right? They did.
I don't remember the score last night.
Yeah, Capitals won. I think that's true. Hang on. I'm just going to make sure. But anyways, yeah, they win 6-2, called it. But they lose Ovechkin in the process. He's week to week. He still banked a ton of goals, so maybe he could still break the record this year, but it's bad for the game. It's bad for the game when a star player goes down like this. It's really bad for the game when a player that is on a heater and a player that is on a quest to break the goals record and could do it this year. It's just it sucks. It's just bad. There's no other word for it. It sucks. It sucks that Ovechkin's down with an injury.
Yeah, really brutal news. Man, especially on fire the way he was right now.
I know.
Firing on all cylinders. It's also this has been a weird day as far as just like star players like being absent, right? Because I think it was Liam McHugh, the host of the NHL on TNT panel, who posted a screenshot of his timeline, which 3 tweets back to back talking about Miller's leave of absence, Ovechkin's injury, and then Austin Matthews. I don't know if you saw this, but so the Leafs have been calling it, all the reporting has been, oh, he's day-to-day. Turns out he's now in Zurich, Switzerland, visiting his doctor and getting
Wasn't it Munich? Germany?
Or Munich, my bad.
Oh yeah, okay.
I confused it with his old
Totally.
team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, he's out in Europe getting his day-to-day injury checked out. Like, okay, day-to-day, like how many day-to-day injuries do you see a player flying to Europe to get it checked out? But yeah, a lot of star player injuries and absences today. Not good for the game, unfortunately.
No, not good for the game at all. You know what is good for the game? Me constantly picking who's going to win games. That's great. It's awesome for me, at least, that I'm nailing it every time I say a team's going to win.
Whatever team you pick is going to be praying that they don't lose one of their players to injury tonight.
Okay, I got a good pick for today. Let's
The Oilers playing today.
They are. Let's get to our
the Oilers. The Oilers were shut out by Montreal last night. So,
and I call Montreal? Oh no, I didn't. I called Washington.
You did.
I called Montreal in my head. I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I don't want to get into it too much, but I will show you. Like, I'm not joking. I recently fired up the Bet365 account again. I'm not joking that I picked Montreal money line at plus 165. That's not a joke. I'll literally send it to you guys in the group chat right now.
All right,
I'm not
fair
joking.
enough. Respect.
Joking.
If it's legit, respect.
Yeah. It was part of a parlay, but still, I picked it.
Did the parlay hit?
No.
Okay, so you can't. No victory laps allowed for that.
But okay. Okay. Fine. I'll let you say that. That's fine.
Like, you can't take a victory lap over a parlay that didn't hit. Come on.
I hit 2 of the legs with Capitals, Canadians, and I told you I was wrong about the other ones, sure, but I still
other ones, so multiple ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You see, wrong. So there we go. You're calling out the multiple games you were right. No mention of the multiple times you were wrong on the same night.
I was wrong on one. I bet that Dallas would come back against the Ducks at plus 150. That's a solid parlay.
You said ones with a plural.
No, that's a solid. Oh, I'll send you the parlay. That was a solid parlay.
All right.
Anyways, I'm all rattled now. Anyways, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by Bet365. The Jets. The Jets are facing the Panthers tonight. In all seriousness, Harm, this is just going to be a good game. There's some animosity between these two teams after what happened last week. There was the overrated chants from the Florida faithful. Now they're coming into our barn in the Peg. the Winnipeg Jets are the favorite to win tonight, and we're taking them. We're taking them. What are they now? 15-2, 16-2, or something like that.
3
Crazy.
losses actually.
Yeah, they are.
lost to
They are
Tampa as well.
15-3-0.
So since I endorsed them, they've lost 2 straight.
And Florida for reference 12-5-1. So yes, should be a good one.
All right, good game tonight. Winnipeg Jets, I'm taking it -120 odds. You can get that over on Bet365. A proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Okay, final thoughts, Harm? Anything you wanted to get to before we wrap up?
Nope.
Excellent. 2 guest episode of Canucks Conversation. It was a fun one today, but we will wrap it up there. For my co-host Harman Dial and technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Rogelli. Thanks so much for listening to an episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.